Welcome to Wine Time Mysteries, where we talk about true crime, the paranormal, mysteries, and cryptozoology with a dash of comedy. This podcast contains adult themes and is intended for mature audiences only. Don't forget to click follow and tickle that little notification bell. Now, find a comfy spot. We're about to start today's episode. Good evening and welcome to Wine Time Mysteries.
Welcome, everybody.
I want to start off with a public service announcement.
Right.
Moving forward, on my episodes, I will not be providing any further trigger warnings at all, full stop, point blank, anymore. This is a podcast intended for adults, and it is about true crime. So please assume that it will more than likely contain some grisly details. If you are not an adult, please stop listening. If you cannot handle graphic content, why the fuck are you here?
She doesn't even go here.
I just heard there was cake. That would be me. Someone said cake.
Some cake.
Yeah, pull up your britches. Suck a dick. Tonight's tale is a tale of... Oh, you fucking did it again.
I did it on purpose. Oh.
Has no highs or lows. It is just bad. You did it again.
I just can't help myself.
I can't even look at you. Born Hamilton Howard Fish on May 19th, 1870 in Washington, D.C. He was a Taurus. Oh. While we do not know for certain how he got his name, he claimed he had been named after a distant relative. What we do know is that his father was 43 years older than his mother.
What? Okay.
But I don't know how old either of them were. Just that he was 43 years older.
That's a bit of a gap.
Just a little one. Like, he was already 43 by the time she was born. That's problematic to me.
Mind the gap.
Mental illness was prevalent in his family, and one even suffered from religious mania. And I'm going to explain for you what religious mania is, because you probably think it's just your average Joe Christian. And it's not.
I was going to say.
Religious mania is a state of acute hyperactivity agitation and restlessness accompanied by hallucinations of a religious nature. And it sounds kind of boring. Light it up. Can you imagine? Jesus? Oh, not Jesus. Can you?
No.
I want something fun at least.
Yeah.
His father died in 1875 and he was put into an orphanage where he was frequently whipped and beaten. But don't feel bad for the little nasty. He soon discovered that he lacked physical pain and the beatings would give him a full chub. Something else the other kids would tease him about. He was 5.
Yeah, that's fucked. Like, ooh. Do it again. Ooh.
I've been naughty.
I did something bad. Yeah, that's really young to be aroused.
But, well, I don't think it's young to be aroused. I think it's young to realise a fetishy sort of... Or I think it's young to have a fetishy sort of response to. That, to me, is a bit odd. Hamilton was the youngest of 4. Walter, Annie, and Edwin. Or just Edwin if you're boring. Hamilton wished for his name to be changed to Albert after one of his dead siblings. And apparently the reason for that is when he was in the orphanage, he was given the nickname Ham and Eggs because his name was Hamilton.
That's where my mind first goes to.
Yeah, Ham and Eggs. Oh, please don't call me Ham and Eggs. It's really me. Ham and Eggs. I don't understand. Get more creative, because that's a weak bone. Just saying. So apparently the change in name was simply to stop that. So moving forward, I will refer to him as Albert. By 1879, his mother had a job. Go you. And was able to take her parenting responsibilities back. Albert went home. But he was now changed. Dun dun. In 1882, now 12, he thought he would try gay for a day. You heard me right. I'm just joking though, but he didn't try gay for a day. He got into a relationship with another boy.
Yeah.
A telegraph boy.
At 12, did you say?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that is
You go
salacious.
get that pole.
It wasn't all kisses, cuddles, and stolen glances. No. Albert taught his new boyfriend how to drink his own urine, and he also taught him coprophagia.
Huh?
Coprophagia is a nice way to say shit eating.
Fuck off. It's bad enough you got piss play. Do you need to put fucking shit play into?
Yeah.
Shit eating.
Yeah.
Eat my shit. Like, no.
I don't know if it was specifically someone else's shit.
Oh. Whose shit? Oh.
Yeah. They weren't super specific about that though. Just that they like to eat poo. So, you know. The more you know. And while we let that sink in, he would also spend the bigger part of his weekends at the public baths, watching other boys undress. He clearly was a little sex pest.
Yeah.
Oh, goody.
This is gonna be great.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be so good.
I'm so excited.
So you're follow. By 1890, Albert had made his way to New York and became a prosy. But it wasn't enough that he'd just be a prosy. Well, it was also around this time that he started raping boys.
Oh.
What do you think I was going to say? He became a singer.
New York, New York.
His mother would eventually force him into an arranged marriage in 1893. He would get a job as a house painter that same year. During this time, he said that he had continued to molest young boys, mostly under the age of 6. Albert and his wife, who was around 9 years his junior, would end up having 6 children of their own. It was kind of short-lived though, because he was arrested for embezzlement in 1903 and was sent to Sing Sing, where he would get dick down on the reg. Every day a sausage day when you're locked up. No?
Sausage party.
Sausage party! Daddy, would you like some sausage?
Daddy, would you like some sausages?
He would eventually take a more morbid turn when it came to sex, becoming fascinated by a bisection of a penis that he saw in a wax museum. So naturally, he found a mentally ill man, got into a relationship with him, restrained him, and tried to castrate him. But the man kind of panicked and broke free of the restraints and ran free. Was that just a lot for a short?
You weren't kidding. Fuck me. Fuck me.
It gets much worse.
I can't wait.
Albert would end up going into brothels requesting the old whip and beat. The perfect time for me to take a pause because, well, I have aphantasia. As I mentioned, all the fucking time I get it. Can we just take a second to think about women in early 1900s garb beating the shit out of a man in a brothel while he jacks off? It's just a funny image to me.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine explaining that?
Well, apparently he went there all the time
Yeah.
to get that same thing.
Can you just do it, but do it really hard? Just really bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, sadomasochism at the time would have already been quite strange. But it is a brothel and they wanted to make money, so... On or around 1910, Albert would commit his first violent crime, stabbing a child named Thomas Bedin in Wilmington, Delaware. By 1917, Albert would find himself alone after his wife left him for another man. Solid move, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, though, that the man was actually someone who used to pay board in their house to, like, rent a room out. And the wife was like, I choose you. See ya.
Oh, that would have been risque.
Yeah. I guess that he wasn't just paying in coin. Wing.
Hey, I got this week's rent. My dick.
My dick!
Let me put it in your purse.
Ashley.
Your meat wallet?
Your meat wallet!
Let me put some mayo on that meat. I'm just picturing it now.
Okay.
There we go.
Toot toot! All aboard for Crazy Town. Albert started hearing voices and would, at least on one occasion, wrap himself up in carpet because John the Apostle told him to.
Maybe the wrong kind of car.
A pussy?
What the fuck is wrong with...
I don't understand.
Can you imagine walking into that? Just some fuckhead. I'm sorry.
Dad? What are you doing?
Come join me, son. Oh, what a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. And they didn't mention it in there anywhere. That kind of also sounds like that religious mania thing. So maybe it hit him too, potentially.
Yeah.
Did you need a minute?
I'm alright.
Having a little cry over there. Having a criggle is what we call it. A cry.
I'm just literally picturing someone wrapped up in carpet.
I can't share this fun with you because I can't.
Just in a ball, like just fucking weird.
Well, I'm glad you found some joy because it doesn't last long. Not forever anyway. It was also around this time that he started indulging in self-harm, embedding needles into his groin and abdomen. An x-ray after his future incarceration would show 29 of them in his groin area alone. I saw the x-ray. They are deep in the area. Gets worse. He would also hit himself with a nail-studded paddle. Gets worse, he would also insert wool doused in lighter fluid up his anus and set it on fire.
That sounds like a bloody good time. What the fuck? He's making himself into like a firecracker. Pew! What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, you just see something, oh, I might stick that up my ass and maybe light it on fire. Oh, that nail looks nice. I might shove that up my fucking groin. What the fuck?
That's the end of the fun part, though. I'm sorry. In 1919, he would stab a mentally retarded boy in Georgetown, Washington, a predominantly African-American neighborhood at the time. Albert believed that if he focused his attacks on the mentally retarded or African-American people, that no one would care and no one would notice because no one gave a shit about these people. Yeah. Yep. And oh yeah, this guy gets much better as we go on. I mean, what do we have so far? We have a sadomasochist that hears voices in his head who likes to wash down a bite of shit with a nice warm cup of piss while being a sexual predator to white boys under the age of 6 and having a penchant for stabbing black children or kids with mental retardation because he feels they don't matter to society. Did I miss anything?
Well, piece of shit.
Well, strap in. We're not done.
Yay.
July 11th, 1924, Albert found 8-year-old Beatrice Keel playing alone on a farm in Staten Island. He offered her money to come with him and look for rhubarb in the neighboring field. As she was about to leave with him, her mother came barreling out of the house and chased him away. Be like Mrs. Keel. She's a good Sheila. Good mum. But, like any other idiot, he would end up returning back to that same house that same night, trying to find a safe, warm place to sleep in their barn. But he was discovered by Mr. Keel, who told him to fuck off.
Final love.
Get the fuck out of my house. What are you talking about? It's not your house, it's a barn. I'm Jesus and Mary and Joseph. I just need a warm, dry place to squat one out.
Yeah, I was just about to give birth to my shit so I can eat it.
Oh. May 25th, 1928. Albert saw an ad in a paper in the classified section. It was of an 18-year-old male looking for work, and it included his entire address, because back then they didn't know any better. Albert, now 58, turns up to this address and introduces himself as Frank Howard, a farmer from Farmingdale, New York. I'm a lawyer from Lawyertown. What the fuck?
Farmingdale.
I'm making this up. It's Farmingdale.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Upon his arrival, he spotted 10-year-old Grace Budd. Frank, aka Albert, promised to hire the boy and would call him in a few days. Albert would return later to the farm, promising again to hire the young man, but used this as an opportunity to convince their parents to let Grace accompany him to a birthday party that he claimed was at his sister's house. Albert left with Grace that day.
No.
And would never return.
What the fuck?
In 1934, 6 or so years after Grace's disappearance, an anonymous letter was received, but Grace's mother was illiterate and couldn't read, so she gave it to her son to read out loud to her. Here is that very letter.
Dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and 2 others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, their boat was gone. At that time, there was famine in China. Meat of any kind was from $1 to $3 per pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all children under 12 were sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under the age of 14 was not safe in the streets. Part of the body of a boy or girl would be brought out and just what you wanted cut from it. A boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body and sold as veal cutlet, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to NY, he stole 2 boys, one 7 and one 11, took them to his home, stripped them naked, and tied them in a closet. Then burned everything they had on. Several times a day and night he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass, and of course the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except for the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled, broiled, fried, and stewed. The little boy was next. Went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, near Rightside. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind. I had to taste it. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street. Brought you pot cheese strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. On the pretense of taking her to a party, you said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped all of my clothes off. I knew if I did not, I would get her blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called for her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run down the stairs. I grabbed her and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death. Then cut her in small pieces so I could take the meat to my rooms, cook and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though I could had I wished. She died a virgin.
End of the letter.
I don't like that.
Albert would later confess to his attorney that he did actually rape Grace, but had also told the police that it never even crossed his mind, because apparently Albert is a compulsive liar, so it was hard to tell whether or not he was being truthful and get a straight answer out of him. It would be that letter that would lead to Albert's arrest, as it had a hexagonal emblem, which after some good old detective work, they were able to link directly back to Albert, eventually. Let's go back just a little bit. And we're going back to his children for just a second. He never abused them, but he would encourage them to spank him with that same nail-laden paddle. You know, the way I mentioned earlier. But yeah, that's just an interesting, I'm using air quotes, fact that came in later in the story, so it didn't really fit in to say it earlier. February 11th, 1927, Billy Gaffney was playing in the hallway outside his family's apartment in Brooklyn with his friend Billy Beaton. They both disappeared, however. Billy Beaton would later be found on the roof of the apartment house. When they asked what happened to his friend, he said the boogeyman took him. Initially, Peter couldn't... It's a fucking Polish name. Initially, Peter Kudzanowski was a suspect in the murder of Billy Gaffney until Joseph Meehan, a murder man, it's a murder man, ADHD what? Never diagnosed, but I think I got it. Woo! A motorman on a Brooklyn trolley saw a picture of Albert in the newspaper and confirmed that he saw the man trying to quiet a little boy sitting with him on the trolley. The boy wasn't wearing a jacket and was crying for his mother. Police matched the description of the child to Billy Gaffney, whose body was never discovered. On September 5th, 1930, an arrest was made of a suspected kidnapping, but they had the wrong man. Charles Edward Pope would end up spending 108 days in jail between his arrest and trial. And do you know why?
Why?
Because he had a wife who falsely accused him.
Oh, what the fuck?
Amber Heard much?
Amber Heard.
December 13th, 1934, Chief Investigator William F. King waited patiently outside of Albert's room in a boarding house until he returned home. He was asked to accompany for questioning, to which he agreed, before pulling out a razor blade and brandishing it. So smart, so smart.
Oh, fucking cut you.
Albert was apprehended and taken to headquarters. During questioning, this is how dumb this guy is. During questioning, he tried to deny murdering Grace, saying that he was actually there to kill her brother.
No, it wasn't after her. It was after him.
Yeah, I was trying to kill someone, just not her.
What the fuck?
Yeah, again, he's so smart. He was arrested. Billy Gaffney's mother visited Albert in jail to try and get more details on her son's death. And I don't think that she was looking for what he was about to tell her, but I think it was more of, like, for example, if I were a parent and one of, heaven forbid, something like that happened to one of my kids, and the person was incarcerated and I didn't have the chance to kill them, I would go there for solace because I would want to know that they didn't suffer.
Yeah.
That's what I would want. And I think that may be what his mother was looking for. But that's not what she got.
I can't wait.
He was quoted as saying, "I brought him to Riker Avenue Dumps, where there is a house that stands alone, not far from where I took him. I took the boy there, stripped him naked and tied his hands and feet, gagged him with a piece of dirty rag I picked up from the dump. Then I burnt his clothes, threw his shoes in the dump. Then I walked back and took the trolley to 59th Street at 2 a.m. and walked from there home. The next day around 2 p.m. I took tools, a good heavy cat and nine tails, homemade, short handle, cut one of my belts in half, slit these halves into 6 strips about 8 inches long. I whipped his bare behind till the blood ran from his legs. I cut off his ears, his nose, slit his mouth from ear to ear, gouged out his eyes. He was dead then. I stuck a knife in his belly and held my mouth to his body and drank his blood. I picked up 4 old potato sacks and gathered a pile of stones. Then I cut him up. I had a grip with me. I put his nose, ears, and a few slices of his belly in the grip. Then I cut him through the middle of his body, just below the belly button. Then through the legs, about 2 inches below his behind. I put this in my grip with a lot of paper. I cut off his head, feet, arms, hands, and legs below the knee. This I put into sacks, weighed with stones. Tied the end and threw them in the pools of slimy water you'll see along the road near North Beach. I came home with my meat. I had the front of his body that I liked best. His monkey and peewees and a nice little fat behind to roast in the oven and eat. I made a stew out of his ears, nose, pieces of his face and belly. I put onions, carrots, turnips, celery, salt and pepper. It was good. Then I split the cheeks from his behind, cut off his monkey and peewees and washed them first. I put strips of bacon on each cheek of his behind and put them in the oven. Then I picked 4 onions, and when the meat had roasted about a quarter of an hour, I poured about a pint of water over to make gravy and put in the onions. At frequent intervals, I basted his behind with a wooden spoon, so the meat would be nice and juicy. In about 2 hours, it was nice and brown, cooked through. I never ate any roast turkey that tasted half as good as his sweet little fat behind did. I ate every bit of the meat in about 4 days. His little monkey was sweet as a nut, but his peewees I could not chew. I threw them in the toilet. I don't like it. I don't
like it.
I don't like it. It was too late by the time I got to this part. Another crime would be uncovered while he was incarcerated, one that took place back on July 14th of 1924. It was of Francis McDonnell, 9, who failed to return home after playing catch with his friends in Port Richmond. A search was performed and his body was found hanging near a tree. He had been sexually assaulted, then hanged by his suspenders. An autopsy showed that he had suffered extensive lacerations to his legs and abdomen, and his left hamstring had almost entirely been stripped of its flesh. Albert denied responsibility for this, but would later state that he intended to castrate the boy but fled when he heard someone approaching the area. Don't you love how that's like a little bit of a thing for him? It's like, oh, I didn't do that. But when I was doing that, someone frightened me away.
Yeah. What?
Albert's trial began on March 11th, 1935 in White Plains, New York, and lasted for 10 days. Albert pleaded insanity, blaming the voice of God telling him to kill children. His team testified to a multitude of sexual fetishes, ending somewhere in the area of Albert being, I believe, and I quote, a psychiatric phenomenon due to him possessing so many sexual abnormalities. A rebuttal witness said that was poppycock and he was just a degenerate pervert. I mean, hilarious. And his 17-year-old stepdaughter, Mary, actually came forward and testified, basically saying that Albert was teaching her and her brothers and other sisters games involving overtones of masochism and child molestation.
Nope.
Needless to say, he was sentenced to death by electrocution and died on January 16, 1936, at the age of 65 at the Sing Sing prison in New York. And his final words, can you guess what they are?
Eat my ass.
Ashley. Too soon. I don't even know why I'm here.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
And that was today's case about Albert Fish. Listen, I wasn't lying to you when I said you are not going to like today's episode.
Do you think all of that was legit, though, of him eating them? Or do you think it was more of a embellished, like, oh yeah, I ate them? You know what I mean? Like if he was a liar.
The problem is he went into too much detail about how he cooked them. I think if someone were lying about it, they might not be so specific on, I cooked them for this long. I used this at this time, I pulled them out and basted them and used onions and they're delicious. There's a chance that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But those kids went missing either way.
And no bodies.
But yeah, I believe he was sentenced or charged for at least 3 murders, but it could have been much more. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Ashley has gone deep inside herself to find some type of solace. And I guess you'll just have to stay tuned and listen out for whatever she's doing next week.
Yep. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.